Well, good evening, everybody, and just waiting for people to jump in. Apologies from Brett. Reverend Brett Murphy, is stuck in Blackpool with a flat tire. So Brett's not here, but it doesn't matter because there's only 3 people watching at the minute, so that's okay. That's okay. So you're stuck with the 2 Richards. I was going to say something else, but since we're going to be talking about religion, we'll not use the other terminology. You're stuck with the 2 Richards. You've got to say
hello
it, Rich.
There. Hello there.
We've got to, whenever I have Richard or Jeff on, we've got to have the Jeff Taylor hello there, or else it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So anyway, we've got a lot to talk. We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about with Brett, and the good news is we're going to get Brett on next week. So unless he gets a flat tire again next week, he's going to be on the stream next week talking about exactly the same subject. And if you've seen from the description and what we've said we're going to talk about, it's the old the guy that was the revival guy from the Lewis revival, Duncan Campbell, used to say it's riots or revival. That was what Duncan Campbell used to say about Northern Ireland, and unfortunately we ended up with riots and not revival. But I think in the UK that revival and Christian revival and political revolution could well go hand in hand. That's what we're going to talk about. But we're going to set the scene. Rich, what are you thinking about what's happening? I mean, it's been a very, very kinetic couple of weeks. I like that word, kinetic. That's what they use about, when there's a bit of action happening, isn't it? So there's been a very kinetic couple of weeks politically, and with movements starting and obviously Tommy coming out of prison, and Tommy, planning for the 13th of September. Advance UK launching just last week and is absolutely smashing it already. I mean, I've been chatting to the guys that are heading that up, and it's going extremely well. So there's a lot been happening. What are your thoughts on where we're at politically? And then we're going to dive into looking at how that's reflected spiritually and how that affects everybody that's basically watching the stream and everybody in the whole country, because I think the 2 things are very closely connected, the idea of Christian revival and a political revolution.
Yes, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at this. I mean, you've got the positives and the negatives for the events of the recent days and weeks. A lot of people would be there going, oh no, not another political party, vote splitting, etc., etc. And I totally understand that perspective. It's something which I personally talk quite a bit on. But if the only option being presented to you, other than the Tories and Labour, is reform, and if reform is not cutting the mustard, as we can see, then what are you left with? Do you just blindly vote reform? And this is a very difficult dilemma. We discussed this before before I came on earlier on Richard. It's a case of, is this vote splitting? Because if there isn't a general election coming up tomorrow, as you rightly said earlier, Rich, to me, and therefore, how can it be vote splitting if we're that far away? Look, reform had a massive shoot upwards in its polling position in a very short period of time. So that could suggest that something like Advance UK could also capture if it captures the imagination right, if it's got the right people behind it and it's got the right money behind it, it could do exactly the same thing. But it could be going against a position of power. So then you're looking at a deal has to be done somewhere. At some point or other, the right has got to unify. Now, the left were always very good at unifying, although the left are they might be about to do another split because Jeremy Corbyn's just started some new party. And although previous Corbynites like Diane Abbott and John McDonald have decided they don't want to join Corbyn's new party, but that's another matter. But I think the important thing here is just to realize that if we don't unite, then yes, we could be looking at something quite nasty. I've said before, the one person who can stop a civil war potentially would be Nigel Farage, or he could be the man to start one, and that's the other side of it. So if hypothetically Nigel Farage was to become prime minister, and all of a sudden people the scales fell from people's eyes and they realize, oh no, what have we voted in? All we've got here is continuity. Then what would happen? All those people's hopes and dreams would have been shattered. Total faith in politics would have been completely obliterated. So there's a lot riding on Nigel Farage's shoulders. If he is intent on becoming Prime Minister, if he can actually do it, a lot would ride on his shoulders. But in the meantime, though, we have Advance UK coming. And that's a political party that's been started by a man who I would describe as one of the most honourable men in politics, and that's Ben Habib. Okay, end of. And if Rupert Lowe could unify with him, maybe if... am I correct in understanding that, Richard, that Ben Habib has opened the door as well to someone like Nick Tenconi? Has he made that offer?
He's open. Here's the thing. I mean, let me just... again, obviously, this is partly for my viewers and just so that you know exactly where I am with all this. I was on the NEC UKIP until Monday. And I knew Ben was doing something, right? But I didn't know when it was going to launch. And I only made my decision to leave UKIP on Monday. Because I'll be honest with you, I mean, and I've said this, I spoke to the chairman of UKIP about this some time ago, saying we actually need to have, if Ben and Rupert do something, then I would think it would be a wise idea for UKIP to just go, okay, well, we'll jump on with you guys. Give us a bit of a position, and we'll jump in with you guys, and we'll basically continue with all that we've got going and bring it all together in that sort of format. So what I was going to do, I was going to wait until the next NEC meeting and then say, guys, can I just say something when all the business, any other business, should we think about wrapping UKIP up and jumping in with Advance? And I thought, do you know what? If I think Advance is the way forward, which I do, what's the point in wasting any time and staying in UKIP? So I only made that decision on Monday because I was going to go to the board of UKIP and say, why don't we just wrap this up and jump in with Ben? Because Nick Tenconi's got a lot of energy. I honestly don't like the way he does stuff. That's the other reason I left. I don't like that sort of street activism stuff. I've done all that myself in the past. Yes, it's got some value, but as a leader, it's not right for a leader of a political party. And the great British public are not going to buy into that, because the thing that people have got to understand, despite everything and despite all the febrile atmosphere and everything that's going on and all the talks of civil war and all this sort of stuff, the vast majority of British people are quiet, gentle, nice people that want to make money, look after their families. They're not particularly interested in politics. They're not even that interested in nationalism, patriotism, or religion. They're just like, that's the thing about the English. We're a very moderate nation. That's why we've only had one real civil war in the past 400 years. You know what I mean? So I don't think that way of doing things is going to win an election. And what we need is a political party that can challenge reform and can show that reform is not what it says. It's not what it says on the tin. It really is, in my opinion, snake oil salesman selling snake oil to the right. And it's not going to achieve what it needs to do. So we need something that can challenge reform realistically. And what I think, Rich, is the only mechanism for that is to have a political party. And again, I think what Ben's doing, sorry, not Ben, what Rupert's doing with Restore is a great idea. As long as when it comes to election time, if Ben's sitting with, and I know he's got around 10,000 members already, maybe more, just from stuff people have been saying in the comments of my videos when they've been giving me the actual numbers of what their membership number is, because I would imagine that reflects pretty much how many members there are. So he's smashing it already, and he hasn't really brought any of his superstar team in yet. I'm sure he'll be talking to a lot of people. I'm sure he's talking to a lot of people in the background, as well as doing all this stuff on the media. So to me, the only mechanism that can take on Reform, the Tories and the Labour Party that really genuinely believes in what we believe is Advance UK. And I know it's a brand new party, a lot can go wrong, and there's a lot of banana skins in the way, and the deep state, we know the deep state, if Ben gets any traction, we know the deep state are going to try and knock the wheels off. But my prediction is this, that and again, if I'm wrong, I'm not gonna eat my hat, because, well, unless it's made out of something like, I don't know, scampi and lobster. But the reality is, I think in 2029, Nigel Farage will not be leader of Reform, and Reform will not be. I think Reform will be shown to be all fur coat and no knickers, basically, by the time we get to the next election. That's what I believe is going to happen. So there needs to be something there to fill that gap. And my thoughts is, Richard, if Restore, Advance, the rump of the Tory party, because there are some good people in the Tory party. I don't class Jenrick as one of them, incidentally, but that's another story. There's a reason for that, and I'm not going into it. But there are some good people in the Tory party on the right. There's some fantastic people in Reform. Many of my friends, really good friends, are in Reform. There's some fantastic people in UKIP. Many of my friends are in UKIP. And, people have been saying, oh, you've stabbed us in about this, something. No, I haven't. I'm saying to UKIP, jump on board with Advance. I'm saying to the SDP, jump on board with Advance. None of the other parties are worth talking about. I'm not going to talk about Homeland Party. I'm not going to talk about Britain First. I'm not going to talk about any of those parties because they're irrelevant, because they're not going to win anything. But there's people in UKIP that are fantastic and should get involved with Advance. There's people in the SDP. William Colston himself is a Christian. He's a fantastic guy. Rod Little's in the SDP. He's a great communicator, very, very powerful voice in the media. So those sort of people should be sitting there thinking, well, hold on a minute. The SDP's really got no chance of doing anything. And I think there needs to be that coming together, which is really what we're talking about, that unity and that unifying thing. And knowing Ben, and again, obviously, we always try and measure things by faith and Christianity when we're doing this stuff now. But Ben doesn't say he's a Christian, but he has exemplary manners. He is a total gentleman. And I don't know Ben that well, but I know him enough to know that, if I chat to him send him a message on WhatsApp, he responds, So the measure of that is I'm a nobody. And the guy that could potentially be the next prime minister of this country, if everything goes well for him, is humble enough to look at the little guy and say, well, actually, I want to hear what Richard's got to say on this. And I think that's an amazing character trait. And that's how I measure people, is how they treat me and how they deal with normal, everyday people. So, yeah, I mean, on the Advance thing, I'm fully supportive, fully on board. I think the potential they've got is absolutely massive. But again, it's early days. It's a little baby at the minute, and children are most vulnerable when they're little babies, which we could talk about later on with this dreadful late-term abortion act that's going on. So that just sets the political scene on the right. What about the overarching political scene, Richie? Because we've got to go into all this before we actually start talking about the real solutions, which I believe are spiritual and then political in that order.
Overarching. That's a difficult one, to be honest with you, because all I see is a direction of travel taking place that seems almost unified, coordinated, and unfortunately, it seems, as I said previously, as if Reform is part of that direction of travel. It doesn't seem to be separate from it. And as you rightly said, there's some brilliant people in Reform, by the way. A movement, Reform is phenomenal. And I cannot criticize the Reform movement. Some brilliant people are in there. It's attracted some wonderful people. It's just it's such a great shame that the leadership and the people at the top have let the whole thing down. Or should I say, have duped a lot of people. I mean, it does feel like, people talk about, controlled opposition.
Yeah.
And it's a term that I don't really like.
Yeah,
because it just seems sometimes too far-fetched. But what if it's not?
It's not. It's honestly. Do you know what, Richard? I don't think it is. I don't think it is. It isn't far-fetched. Oh, there's Paul Thorp. Paul, if you want to jump on, I'll send you the link. Give me a thumbs up if you want to jump on. I'll ping you the link through, mate. It'd be great to have you on the show.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't think it is far-fetched. I don't think it's far-fetched. By the way, guys, can you do me a favor? Like this stream, share it, because we want to get the viewers up. I know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people in the, doing stuff on Twitter and all sorts of different platforms. But like and share this, because I think, again, this is a really important conversation that we've got to have. But go on, Richard. Sorry, I cut across you there.
No, you're fine, mate. Yes. So in other words, I don't think we have a political environment that we can call diverse, because it isn't diverse. This is a uni-party I mean, it's such a narrow focused proposition being presented to the British people. That's the way I describe it. So this is your option. It may seem like you have multiple options here, but you really don't have multiple options. You have one option, and that is the danger here. Again, there are on the right. Then you have these different expressions of a more cohesive thing. That's the annoying thing, though. Okay, because within Reform, you do, as I said, you've got some fantastic people. You rightly said in the Tory party, some brilliant people, brilliant within obviously within UKIP and Advance UK, and there's so many other people and independents. Incidentally, they're the unsung heroes out there as well. Some independents. So you've got a situation where everything is very fractured, even though everyone's pushing in the same direction. It's very strange. Yeah, I've not seen anything like this before. Until if you go back, say, to the 1980s and the 1990s, you knew what the left was, you knew what the right was. Right now, you haven't got a clue what's left or right. To be honest with you, I mean, actually, what are Labour even? Can you honestly say that Labour are left wing? I don't think it's left wing. I don't know what they are. If you think back to like Tony Benn or oh good grief, what was the other chap? Oh good grief, he was party leader. Michael Foot. Sorry, Michael Foot.
Oh, Michael Foot. Yes, the guy
I mean,
with
yeah, they were both Brexiteers. Don't forget.
Yeah.
So the left itself was very, very different. What we've got now is a version of the left, which is it's accurately described as liberal left.
Yeah.
Now, and then you've got the term classical liberal, which is totally different again. So you've got all these different terminologies trying to describe what is and what is not to quantify the political system. And yet none of them make any sense anymore. So what we do need is something that just goes, look, I don't care if this policy falls under the sort of bandwagon of being left-wing or right-wing. What I care about is whether it works for the country. And that's the important thing. There's loads of things I think that some people say are left-wing policies. I think, well, actually, that's not a bad idea. I think about some basic, what I'm talking about here is basic infrastructure. Like I do believe in an NHS. I do believe in the railways being nationalised. I think that's a pretty good idea, actually. Some people may totally disagree there, but I think that's a pretty good idea. And a few other things. But
I think so. And I think and again, I mean, it comes back to this whole idea of faith. By the way, Paul Thorp is going to be joining us. Now, we all know what it can be like with getting people into live streams. We had it last week when we were actually when me and Paul were doing one with Ben. The technology just didn't work. So just bear with me. You just want to keep chatting there, Jeff, just while I try and get this sorted out.
So what we're looking at is, a country that is crying out for common sense in politics and doesn't want to be sort of narrowed down to left wing, right wing, all these, to be honest, they're completely outdated modes anyway. It doesn't mean anything, especially when you look at, for instance, the far right, the far left. What's the difference? The Nazi party was the National Socialist German Workers' Party. That's what it was. Notice the word socialist in there.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, this is what I always used to say about Sinn Féin IRA across here in Northern Ireland. They used to call people Nazis, but they were the real Nazis. They were National Socialists. Right? We're gonna bring in Paul Thorp. Hopefully this will work, because there we go. What about that? What about the Three Musketeers? Paul, you're looking very. You got a pasty Englishman, a pasty Welshman, and then you got Senior Paul.
Can you hear me all right, guys?
Pablo. Yes, see Pablo.
Evening, Richard. Lovely.
How you doing, Richard? All right, mate?
You got two dicks and a Paul.
Yeah.
Well, 3 dicks now then.
Well, yeah, absolutely, mate. None of that language on my channel, Paul. We're not on your channel now, mate. You know what I mean?
Oh, dear. Lovely to see you guys. Hello to everyone in the chat. Love to everyone.
Yeah. And listen, do us a favor, guys. Share this just to annoy people. Just share this everywhere so that people get really annoyed.
Absolutely.
And follow these guys' channels. So follow Richard's channel, follow Paul's channel, and give them a like. And Yeah, it's good to see you, Paul. I mean, I'm starstruck. It's that long since we've done a live stream together, mate. You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't know about that. Can I just say that I enjoy watching Richard and obviously Jeff as well. Richard, you're doing a brilliant job, mate, and yeah, keep it up. Obviously, both of you.
That means the world to me, Paul. Always enjoyed your stuff, mate. Honestly.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, just catching up with the show and having to listen to what you're saying. You know, I agree with every word, every single word.
I mean, we're just talking. I mean, the reality is we were kind of putting the world to rights about what's going on the right, and we need to find some way of getting unity. But I think the other thing is, Paul, that with Ben Habib, what we've got, and I mean, you know, it's like anything. Obviously, nobody's perfect, right? We're all human beings. None of us are perfect people. But with Ben, what we've got is basically a guy who is, I think, about as humble and about as honest as you can get. I mean, I've honestly, I've never seen him do anything sharp to anyone. I've never seen him stab anyone in the back. I've never seen him, you know, attack anyone. I mean, obviously, he criticizes Nigel, and quite rightly so, because Nigel should be critiqued and criticized. But the other thing is, Paul, I don't think reform's going to be a force to be reckoned with in 6 months' time, let alone a year. I think you know, it's the, as it says in the Bible, the writings on the wall. They've been weighed in the balances and they've been found wanting. It's as simple as that.
I think the bottom line is this. I think at the end of the day, so many good, honest, decent British people up and down the country have hung their hat on reform in the hope that they're going to be the answer.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, we know now that they're not going to be. The bottom line is that Ben Habib, without a question of any doubt, offers us our best chance with a political party. I mean, look, I know I wasn't criticising Rupert the other day in my video. What I was saying is that I'm just disappointed that Rupert and Ben couldn't have done this together right from the very start. And it's my understanding, and I'm not saying that I speak for anyone else, but it's my understanding that was down, the reason they're not together was more down to Rupert than to Ben. And I will support the person that wants to unify. Now, for me, I said it the other day, the two people that are most interested in unifying is Tommy and Ben. Now, we need to get those two together somewhere down the line, because there is such the country is, I think the country is just ready to absolutely implode at the moment. We need hope. And Ben brings us genuine hope.
We definitely do, Paul. We definitely. I mean, I was going to have Reverend Brett Murphy on tonight, because obviously, you know, he brings a real. I mean, he's a great guy, Brett, and he brings a real weighty spirituality to the thing that which I could never try and bring, you know. But he's not here, so what we'll do, actually, guys, we're going to save for next week what we're going to do this week, and this tonight's stream. And I don't want to get in trouble for misadvertising, because we were going to talk about revival and that sort of thing. I don't think we're really going to that tonight. I think we'll just talk about the politics, because we're at 5:30 now. We'll go till 9 o'clock, and I think we'll just hit the politics really hard tonight, and try and thrash. Is that okay with you, Richard? Yeah, because
yeah, absolutely.
I think I'll save that for next week with Father Brett, because I need someone that's got sort of spiritual authority to talk about that stuff in an authoritative way. So let's park that, and let's just get really dirty on the politics tonight. Let's just get really messed up on politics. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think politically it's very exciting. I think when you think about the potential now, and Paul, I tell you what, I didn't know, we knew something was going to happen. We've been told something was going to happen, but there was no, you know, it was kind of a bit of a bolt from the blue, wasn't it? We kind of all found out the weekend before, really, that was exactly when it was going to happen. And I was saying earlier before you came on, Paul, I didn't make my decision to leave UKIP until the Monday or Sunday night, Monday morning. I said, well, if I'm going to, you know, Ben doesn't want you being in two parties, because what I was going to do, I was going to go to an NEC meeting, if you can say, guys, we might as well just wrap it up and go to Ben's party. So I sent Nick and Ben a text on Monday, said, guys, I think this is the only show in town. I think we should get behind it. Didn't get a response. I thought, well, that tells me all I need to know. So I just went, that's it. You know, I'm resigning, and I'm all in with Ben. And you know, it's not a question of being disloyal or flip-flopping. I'm loyal to my country. I'm not loyal to party.
Yeah.
I'm loyal to family, faith, and flag, right? And that's where my loyalty lies. But if the mechanism to save my country, save our country, is Ben Habib and the Advance Party, then I'm all in, and I'll give it my absolute best shot to help them and support. And like, I'm not in a leadership position. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy that's paid a tenner for a membership. But because we've got a bit of influence, we can actually do something. And what I was saying earlier, Paul.
Yeah, sorry, Richard. I think we need to be fair and pay the credit and respect that's due to the boys at UKIP and Nick. I mean, they've done a grand job. You know, Nick is out there fighting the fight every day, every week. And I've met Nick, I've interviewed him. I have a lot of respect for Nick. I have a lot of respect for the people that support UKIP, because we're all on the same side. But as I said in the video the other day, I don't care who comes out on top as long as it's one of our own, right?
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, I first met Ben Habib just over a year ago. I contacted Ben, did not expect a reply. I said, Ben, would you meet with me? Would you consider meeting with me, one of that lot, over a coffee? And he said yes. I was really surprised that he said yes. I travelled to London. He made me extremely welcome. And I knew from the moment that I met him that the man that I'd seen on TV was the real deal. This was the real deal. And real deals are very, very difficult to find. Now, I've not found many real deals in politics since I've been in and around it. There's a few. I won't name them because I might forget someone, but I've met a few real deals, and I've met a few people who I believe are honest tryers, but have no real chance of achieving much. Ben doesn't fit in that category. Ben fits in the category of being able to really take this by storm. And I can see, sorry to waffle on, but when you talk about reform, guys, right, I can see halls and halls and halls of reformers opening their eyes very quickly within the next few weeks and months and moving over to Ben. Because Ben gives us and delivers us the message that we need, the message that we want to hear. Ben is a public school, private school educated Tommy in many respects. He has the heart of a lion. He has the education that's needed to lead this country. He has the loyalty. He has the respect of the people. And more than anything, this is a man that can build bridges and relate to people from all different classes.
Yep.
I don't know anyone else that can do that.
I totally agree, Paul. And that's what we were saying before he came on. You know, Ben's got that. And I think, again, with UKIP, I am not going to badmouth UKIP, because UKIP have fought this fight since what? Late 90s? You know, I've been in UKIP twice. I don't think they'll let me in again now, but I've been in UKIP twice. And I honestly think the guys should just say, great, you know, we can't win the next election. Let's get behind Advance. And I'm saying the SDP should do it as well. Any of the other smaller parties, everyone should just say, let's fall in behind Advance. Also, the Reform thing's very interesting, Paul. I'm not going to say who, but I've been speaking to people in Reform, and they are watching. Yeah, they're watching and they're waiting. And they will make a move when the time's right. And these are very influential people. And that's all I'm going to say. Because nobody likes what's going on in Reform.
Boys,
they don't.
I'm going to go a lot further. I'll go a bit further than that and say...
Don't name names.
I won't name any names. But all the people that I know in Reform, and they are... Right, they're close and close and close to the top. They're ready to jump.
Yeah.
They're ready to jump.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And you know, so if this could be the absolute dream team. And I was saying earlier about William Colston, Rod Little, you know, Nick from UKIP, you know, Ben's got massive experience. The rest of the board of if everybody just said, do you know what? Let's put all our eggs in one basket and try it for a year, okay? See how far we get. Because I don't believe Nigel's going to be. I don't believe he's going to be anywhere by the time of the next general election. I really don't.
I'll tell you what, can I just address the other Richard for a moment? Richard, imagine this, mate. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, and I want to ask you this question and address it to everyone watching, right? I want you to imagine a scenario where we wake up tomorrow morning and a press conference has been called by Ben Advance UK to announce that Katie Hopkins, Tommy, all the major YouTubers, all the major social media influencers, Ant Middleton, Derek Chisora, guys from Reform, all the people that we know, the Mayor Tuzis, the Jeffs, etc., all have agreed to join this party and get behind it. The Nick Tanconis, the guys from UKIP, all the other guys from the smaller centre-right parties, and all thrown their weight in or thrown their hand to the ring behind Ben Habib and the newly formed Advanced Party. How would you and how do you think the nation would feel about that?
I think I'm going to have to try and do this dispassionately, okay? I'm going to try and be because I know what I want to say, how I would love the nation to react, and it may be how I would love the nation to react, but I think that this all depends on how well people know Ben Habib. Now, one of the things we have to take into account is that, unfortunately, Nigel Farage is a bigger name than Ben Habib. I think there was a survey done, and a lot of people didn't even know who Rupert Lowe was at one point. Within Reform, actually, that was a very strange thing I found. People didn't know who he was. So what would be required, though, to get to where you're on about, Paul, is for there to be a lot of backing behind Advance UK, okay? And that would mean if all the YouTubers out there were pushing this like crazy, and if you had, say, Elon Musk even helping just to boost it, it's all about public persona profile. Once that gets out there, then yes, I think the British public would absolutely cheer this like there's no tomorrow. But it's getting there. If this, for instance, if this happens tomorrow, but if tomorrow everyone decided to pile in, I think there would be like, oh, this is great, but it wouldn't have the same momentum. What we do have on our side is time leading up to the next election to actually keep chipping away. And what Ben needs to do, I think, sooner rather than later, is to start coming forward with some sort of policy ideas, because that's what people want to know. So, what are you going to do then? What do you actually, or not necessarily commit to policies, but so this is pretty much along the lines we're going to go along. For instance, certain persons should not remain in this country, we'd say something like that, and then identify which persons should not. Let's get into some specifics of what would be on the table. So I think if Ben starts to do that, I think all of a sudden people will start listening. Because right now, a lot of people are saying, oh, maybe this isn't good, that's not good. Like, okay, yeah, well, what are you specifically going to do about it? I think it's one of the things that lets down so many political parties is that they don't heavy up on concentrating on policy. And that's the important thing. I think Ben can do that.
All coming. I think that's all coming. From what I can see, this is going to be one of the best organised political parties that you have ever seen anywhere in the world. I mean, it's just amazing what is going on in the background from what I've seen. One thing I would like to say, I mean, I'm looking at some of the comments that Richard's throwing up there, and obviously there are all different opinions, but I'm going to use one of my silly football analogies again, right? We all support the same team. We all want the same team to win. That's our team, whatever our team is and whoever it involves. But we don't have to like all the players. We don't even always have to like the tactics. We don't have to like the manager. But we need the team to come to win and have victory. And that's the way I look at this now. I mean, there are always going to be certain things that any politician says that none of us will agree with every single word they say. It's never going to happen. But we must, on the centre right, we must come to terms with not being able to agree with everything. There might be certain things that we don't necessarily like or agree with, but we got to stick in there for the team so that we can get this victory.
Yeah, I totally agree, Paul. And I think what you said on the video at the weekend, and it was a bold move to say that, Paul. And I'm sure you've had some kick. Whenever I say anything controversial, you just get kickback from everybody. And
Yeah, of
at the
course,
end of the day, that's fine. We've got broad shoulders, and people have got a right to their opinions, as long as they keep it respectful, and as long as it's play the ball and not the man, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? If we're talking football. So and I think one of the things, and again, we're not going to talk about tonight, but one of the things is as we try and sort of re-evangelize and re-Christianize a nation, there should be, especially from people that are claiming to be Christians, there should be a lot more grace and a lot more mercy to each other, and we should treat each other with respect and with kindness. That's not a difficult thing to do. It's not, especially if we're on the same team. I mean, the problem is that what we've got, Paul, we've got central defenders flipping, attacking centre forwards and trying to break the legs.
Oh yeah, mate. There's been a few own goals in the last few months.
Hasn't there just there's people playing the man and not the ball on their own team. So that's got to stop. All the infighting, all the bitching, all the nastiness. I just hate it. I can't be bothered with it. So that's got to stop. But I think you made some very good points. But what I did disagree with you a bit on was the thing about Rupert. I think with Rupert, what we've got to do with the Rupert Lowe situation, again, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not privy to that. But from me reading the room is, okay, Rupert's got his ideological difference with, not ideological difference, strategic difference. So Ben's going, I want to do a party. Rupert's going, I want to do a movement. Now, if that's all it is, and I genuinely think that's all it is, that could actually tactically work or strategically work extremely well. So let's say Ben gets a party with 100,000 members in it within a year, which is highly possible. If it keeps the momentum going that we've got going, and I say we, because I'm a member of Advance, and I am going to probably join Restore as well, because I want to see what they're about. For the sake of 20 quid, it's worth dipping my toe in the water, seeing what they're about. And Ben's joined Restore as well. So Ben's put his money where his mouth is on that. So it's about having two parallel tracks, because if Rupert's chatting to people in the Conservative Party, chatting to people in Reform, chatting to people in UKIP, chatting to people in all the SDP, all the different parties, well, what he's doing then, he's building unity as well. If Ben achieves what Ben's trying to do, which is building a party with, I think you said it the other night, Paul, he needs 100,000 members to be in the game seriously. Okay, he's talking about 30,000 just to get on the pitch, but to win a trophy, he needs at least 100,000 members. Yeah. So if Ben gets up to his 100,000 members, Rupert's maybe got, I don't know, it's a lot easier to build a movement than it is a party. So, if Rupert gets a couple of 100,000, you've got 300,000 people there. Then you've got the United Kingdom.
Richard, I'm just a bit confused who's going to be in Rupert's gang, because at the end of the day, the vast majority. I mean, look, again, before anyone gets the wrong idea, I back Rupert Lowe 100%.
Yeah,
right? I'm just disappointed that they weren't in this together. It's like your mum and dad standing at the opposite ends of the room. You want them to meet in the middle and have a dance, right? At the end of the day, these are our, along with Tommy, these are our head lions, and we want them to be in one pack, not separated up. I mean, Ben has already has the Great British Pack, and look, Rupert might surprise me and might come up with something that is amazing, but I'm not sure that saddling up to the Tories, which I think there's no question that he is doing. It's my belief that he has his eyes on the Tory party leadership, and if he has, I think he's living in dream world.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't. The thing is, we don't know. The truth is, we don't know for sure exactly what he's thinking. But I mean, the reality is, it doesn't detract away from what we're doing. What our focus is basically getting behind Advance, building Advance, and I mean, it's apparently, I don't know if this is true. Ant Middleton's just said he's still backing Reform. So I don't know. I mean, I think if Ant Middleton will probably learn sooner rather than later what Reform's all about, and I think the sooner he learns it, the better, to be brutally honest with you. But that's up to him. Again, we're not going to do is start attacking people and saying, there's a massive problem with Reform. There's a massive problem with Reform, and we've got good reason. I mean, Richard Tice responded to David Starkey. David Starkey called them out for veering horrendously to the left, right? And again, David Starkey, I'm not a big fan of David Starkey, to be honest with you, but He is very intelligent. He knows the game. He knows history. He knows politics, and he basically he called them out for veering to the left. Richard Tice, his response was, "Don't worry about it, David. Just trust us." You know, it's like that guy that's just sold you the cut and shut car, isn't it? You know what I mean? Don't worry, the suspension top's just gone through the bonnet. Don't worry about it. Just trust me. That happened to me, by the way. But so it's like, it's just, I was the one that sold the car, but it's just, you can't, you cannot. I never had any credibility anyway, Paul. It doesn't matter. But you cannot trust reform with the future of the country, right? It's different selling a second-hand car that's a bit dodgy, but you can't do that with the country. There's too much at stake, and there's too many people's lives at stake.
I got to say, Paul, I really liked your video the other day. I'm glad you started that conversation off. Now, I think it was a conversation that needed to be had as well about whether. At the end of the day, as you rightly said, there is a movement already, a Unite the Kingdom movement, which the values that are stated in this Restore are already in existence. But I was trying to think then, because what you actually did is you actually revealed a certain value that Restore has as well, in that it has articulated it. It articulated a set of values, but then again, they're also present in the pledge. So what I'm seeing is I'm still starting to see lots of things sort of moving out together, but not fully unifying. But maybe that's how it has to naturally, organically sort of grow. Possibly. Initially, and hopefully then leading up to the general election, the things that have sort of sprouted up will sort of join together. And in what, as you said, it doesn't matter who comes out on top as long as it's one of our own. That is absolutely spot on. Now, the one thing I will say about Ben Habib, you look at all the candidates out there, okay, including current party leaders and the Prime Minister. Who actually looks like a Prime Minister out of all of them? It's only one person, isn't it? It's Ben. Farage. Yeah. I can't see Farage. Can you imagine with the dispatch box? I'd be cringing. It'd be horrific. Absolutely horrific. Rupert Lowe would be my second choice. I think he's absolutely fantastic, incidentally. But sometimes you need that level of restraint that Ben Habib has got. And he's got a fierce, quiet intelligence going on as well behind the hood. And I think that's something that, honestly, it unnerves his opponents. If you were to actually sit down,
can you guys imagine, can our audience imagine Ben Habib travelling to the White House to meet with Donald Trump for the first time? Those two would get on like a bloody house on fire.
Yeah.
Unquestionably, they would be best mates in 5 minutes.
Well, I'm going to put another curveball in there as well. Ant Middleton as Defence Secretary and Tommy as Home Secretary. Now, look, I know that's going to upset a lot of people, right?
Tonight. I'll be too excited.
That's going to people on the left will be reaching for the smelling salts if any of them are watching this thing. I mean, I think it would be great just to see. Can you imagine? I said this before when Anne-Marie Waters was doing For Britain. I said, imagine Anne-Marie Waters, Gerard Batten, Tommy Robinson. What? Walking into Parliament on the first day after the general election. I still want that to happen. Okay, Gerard probably won't make a comeback now. But here's the thing about Rupert, putting all those jokes aside. Here's the thing, and I'm not joking about it. I think Tommy's not, the thing is, people have got to realise as well, at the minute, Tommy's not interested in politics. He's interested in sorting his life out, uniting the kingdom, the cultural movement, which is massively connected with the spiritual movement and with this Christian. I don't believe it's a Christian revival, but I believe it's an awakening where people are realizing the value of Christianity. I think that's what's happening. I'm not seeing massive spiritual changes in the way things are happening, but I think people are going, hold on a minute. When everybody went to church and everyone believed that book, everything was a lot better than it is now.
Yeah.
We weren't aborting. We're not, let's get it right, murdering babies up to birth. We weren't talking about bumping off granny if she's got a bit of dementia. We were basically caring for people, loving our neighbor, and being very nice, gentle people. And we don't realize how much Christianity impacted our lives as a nation for 1,500 years from the dying days of the Romans.
Cultural Christianity.
Well, yeah, I mean, my argument is that you if you've got cultural Christianity, you're kind of only getting half the package, and you should really have the whole lot, because you're going to miss out. It's kind of it's like, I don't know, it's like buying a sports car and never driving the thing. You know what I mean, Danny?
Well, yeah, it's a case of if you can, the way to describe it, I think, is my old saying is, if you want the country of yesteryear, you have to be the people of yesteryear. Now, where I live, there are in this small little rural area, there must be about 7 or 8 small chapels and churches. Okay, few of them are attended these days, and a lot of the chapels have been converted into houses. Yet, if you were to go back 100 years ago, not even that far, they would have been filled multiple times a week. So, why were they filled? Was this just because of the rules of the Bible, the laws? No, this is far more than just the laws and the standards. This is something that transformed them inside as individuals. And I will go on to Jeff Taylor's baptism, which I was at. I know he wouldn't mind me talking about. He's mentioned it in the last live stream we did. It was profound. It was incredibly profound. It was a beautiful thing. Of course, he's gone into the Orthodox faith. But what absolutely shocked me, was the young men there. This was something I have not seen before. The young men, they seemed solid. I said to you earlier, actually, Richard, if any of those men, if a daughter of mine was to say, I'm bringing one of these guys back, as I'm going to marry one of these, I'd be like, yes, fine, you have my permission. That's how decent. So you could just tell there was a certain groundedness to them, and that's something that's missing, so missing, because the family unit has been destroyed. Without the family unit, is going to drift as well, isn't it? When you think about it, if you haven't got the church there as the grounding force, that's what happens. That's what you can't have that cohesive society. That's the thing that underpins it all, is the church. It always has been. And that comes from the individual being transformed by Christianity. And that's the key thing. Paul, I know you're not a Christian yourself, but this is, and cultural Christianity, I can see the value of it, definitely. And the thing is, it's like, if you're not a Christian, it's the only part of Christianity you can experience unless you go through that process yourself.
Yeah, Richard, I would say I'm probably more of a Christian than I realise, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it's the last sort of year or so I've realised that I am, whilst I'm not what you would call I don't go to church, etc., but I do pray. And, I'm probably more of a Christian than even I realise. But what I was going to say about that is that I think the day the kids stopped singing hymns in class, in schools in the UK, was the day that this started to go downhill. I mean, we were all brought up singing hymns. We were taught the national anthem. I mean, Ben was talking about the children singing the national anthem at school today. 100% spot on. Give the kids a bloody identity.
Yes.
And even
proud.
things like learning the Lord's, even things like learning the Lord's Prayer, which is, they'd be more likely to cart the kids off to the local Deobandi madrasa than they would to actually take them to the local Methodist church. Yes. I mean, we're going to say the Church of England church, but unfortunately, I think God may well have left the Church of England for a little while. So, but that's another story. But I think all of these things are connected. Tommy coming out of prison with a cross on and openly saying on a channel that he's a Christian, what I thought was incredible, and so from that point of view, I think there is a lot going on spiritually as well. And I think the two things, this is what tonight's stream was going to be about with Brett Murphy. It was going to be about how the politics and the spirituality and the culture all can and should all sync together. But like I said, we'll save that for another week. But I do think it's important to realize how important this is for the UK, because we are in a very, very real ideological battle, and it's between the extremist religious ideologies, and I'm not talking about Christianity, I'm not talking about Buddhism or Hinduism, so everyone can work it out. The extremist religious ideologies, which are so dangerous. People don't realize how dangerous they are. And also the whole woke progressive agenda, and those two things have synced, and the only thing that's really standing against it is this idea of cultural Christianity, real Christianity, and conservatism. You know, right wing, you know, small government, personal responsibility, you know, and all the stuff that comes with that you're loving your neighbor, you know, helping each other. And I think, Paul, I must say, I think I've known you for probably near 2 years now, and I think you're one of the most gracious people that I've come across in this movement, and I mean that sincerely. And I think that's why so many people support you and love you. And I think, again, I'm going to say it, but some of the stuff that's been thrown at you in the past few months has been completely unfair, completely uncalled for, and the people that have done it should hang their heads in shame. And you know, that needs to be said publicly. And it's not, you know, sort of false flattery. I mean that, you know, from the bottom of my heart, because I've been appalled by a lot of the stuff that's actually gone on. And of course, I've been subject to it as well, but I don't really give a shit. That's the difference. But you know, but yeah. So I think there's a lot there to unpack, and I think I would love to see Rupert and Ben working closely together. I hope that Rupert isn't going to go off on a tangent and join the Tory party, because the bottom line is nobody's voting for the Tories. Rupert, if you're watching this, the Tories are busted flush. They ain't making a comeback. There'll be a core of, you know, old biddies that's always voted for them all their lives. They'll keep voting for them, but that is it. The Tory party's a busted flush. All you have to do to defeat the Tory party is say, remember the Boris wave. 1 million migrants came in a year under the premiership of Boris Johnson. Not just Rishi Sunak. Boris started the Boris wave. And the Tory party needs gutted like a fish, in my opinion. I think there's some great people in the Tory party. Suella Braverman, not too hot and generate for reasons I've talked about before. Suella Braverman, Liz Truss, even though she was a reformer, she seemed to have a Damascene conversion, and she's basically on our side. So there are some good people there, but they're, you know, and again, so there's a lot at stake, guys, isn't there? There's a lot at stake.
Hell of a lot at stake. Our very future and our kids' futures at stake. I mean, you know, yeah, first of all, Richard, thank you for those kind words. You didn't need to say that, but I appreciate it. Look, at the end of the day, everything is at stake. We do this, I think we all do this because A, we care so much, but B, probably most of us have got kids and grandchildren and we fear for their futures. For free old gits like us, it probably doesn't matter too much because, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to be gone before it truly matters, I suppose. But we're doing it for everyone's future. One question I will have or would like to bring up is you talk about the wave, the Boris wave, etc. A friend of mine went to book a holiday to Turkey this week. I don't know why he wants to go to Turkey, but he went to book up to go to Turkey for a week, and the government advice at the moment is not really to travel to Turkey, particularly within 10 miles of the Syrian border. So my question is, why are they bringing the Syrian border onto the shores of Dover? If that's the government advice.
Absolutely, Paul.
So if
Absolutely.
the government's own advice is not to go there, why are they bringing that here?
Absolutely. And here's the thing about this, Paul, right? The Tory party were in charge when this was happening. They are the masters of this. They are the makers of this. So the Tories cannot be trusted with the borders. The Labour Party, the Lib Dems, SNP, they're progressives. They don't care. They just see, you see, and this is the thing. They mask compassion. They pretend that they've got compassion for the people that are coming in, where they're cynically building a voter base from migrants. That's what they're doing. That's why they're getting them passports. They'll get them on the electoral roll. They'll get the imams going around to all the community groups. They'll get all the community groups working together. They get a vote. They get a block vote. They'll get the postal votes, and they're getting themselves a couple of million votes by magic, by bringing millions of. Now, why the Tories did it, I don't know. But I think that again, that's down to the civil service. And you know, Kelly's saying about Dominic Cummings. Dominic Cummings, absolutely. I mean, and again, you know, is he going to be watching this? I don't know. But Dominic Cummings, to me, needs to be talking to Ben, and I don't know whether that's going to happen. But you know, or whether that's even a good idea, because obviously Dominic Cummings comes with his own baggage, as we all do. But we need radical people with radical philosophical ideas that will drive the thing forward. And you know, no matter what's going to happen, Ben's got the ideas. Ben has said he's going to repeal all this nonsense. So people are talking about how, you know, it's all right saying deport, deport, deport. And like Jeff was saying, okay, how do you deport 2 million? You know, I think there's probably at least 2 million illegal migrants in this country. At least, right? That's what Cummings was saying. So, you know, the problem's far bigger than we realize. So you need a plan of how to do it, and it needs to be very, very compassionate, because you don't treat.
I was going to say one that doesn't lead to bloodshed.
Exactly, and so it
I
has to
think
be
the
done with
answer
compassion.
right in front of us, to be honest, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I think this is all by design. And this might sound a little conspiratorial, but I don't care. At the end of the day, why are they? This is a deliberate act. These people are entering this country. It's not by happenstance. This is a deliberate act to allow these people in. And otherwise, they would not be welcomed so readily. Okay, and given all this, you know, given hotel rooms, money, free NHS, free private treatment as well in some cases as well. So why? Well, where do these people work? Where are they working when they come here? What are they doing here? How do they make their money? On the black market, black economy.
Yeah.
What's that run with? Cash. If you want to get rid of cash, what are you going to replace it with? Central bank digital currencies, programmable money. It's already been talked about. Rishi Sunak spoke about it with Bitcoin. If you get rid of cash, if Bitcoin was introduced and central bank digital currencies were brought in, cash would disappear. How do you think these people would make their money? Do you know the exodus that would be from this country of these people? But so what you've achieved, though, at the same time, is you've got a population now completely controlled with these not just central bank digital currencies, with cryptocurrencies as well. Incidentally, that's another conversation. But that seems to be the way that it's going, because there is it does seem like a problem reaction solution situation. This does. If you want get people to beg, to cry out for a central bank digital currency, how are you going to achieve that? You tell them that it's going to cure this problem of people in the black market, the Deliveroo drivers, all these people opening up takeaways in these hotels. It'll sort all that out instantly.
Yeah.
That's quite scary. I think some of these establishments will say on the high street that we're seeing that are quite clearly there for money laundering, they'll disappear. A lot of people will leave this country because they won't be able to make their filthy lucre here. The drug dealing situation, that will instantly be a different situation. Yeah.
The drug dealing problem up and down the country is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Well, this is the whole thing. I mean, this is where we come back to the idea of morality, and we come back to the idea of some sort of Christian awakening or Christian revival. Because when that sort of thing happens, when it's genuinely real, you know, every person that gets affected by it is changed, and you know, you see drug dealers stop dealing drugs, you see, you know, pubs closing out, and this has happened in history right the way throughout history. It's something that's never really talked about, the effect that a Christian revival has on a nation. You look at the Welsh revival, Richard, in 1904 and 1859, the Ulster revival 1859, the American New York revival 1858. They all totally transformed those communities because people got real about what was in the book. They got real about what was in the Bible. And that if you get like that, it's not like if you get real about the Quran, you end up with Osama bin Laden and ISIS, right? If you get real about Christianity, you end up with a very tolerant, nice society where everybody gets on well and it prospers. But you know, that's putting all that aside from the point of view of where we go now. This is just, you know, it's all right us sitting here, you know, talking shop about all this sort of stuff. I would still say the following things, right? So this is what I would say, and let me know if you agree with me. First of all, join Advance. But before you do that, you've got to do something. You've got to get on the electoral roll. So you've got to register to vote. You've got to go online and, you know, Google it. I'm not going to put it in the comments. Just Google it. If you're not registered to vote, get registered to vote. All this, oh, I'm not voting. Well, okay. If you're not voting, you have absolutely no say in the political process, and you might as well just stop watching YouTube videos because there's no point. Start voting. And I know there's reasons that some people can't get on the electoral roll because obviously their security and so on and so forth. I get all that. But if you can get on the electoral roll, get on the electoral register and start voting and start getting involved in the political process, then join Advance, or join Advance first and do it simultaneously. So join a political party, still join the pledge. The pledge, we came out, we made a decision at the beginning of the week to back Ben. I'll tell you why we back Ben, because Ben is the only political leader to have publicly signed the pledge. Now, others may have signed them. I haven't interrogated the database. Ben signed the pledge at the launch of the pledge. He put his neck on the line because, again, it's a new thing. It's controversial. Some of the stuff in there, people might find a bit, whatever. They might not like it. But Ben put his neck on the line, said, this is common sense. I'm going to get behind it. And when you look at a lot of the policies that Advance have got, they completely synchronize with the pledge. So that's why we sent the email out on Monday. Ben's never criticized the pledge, never attacked the pledge, been very supportive of it. So to me, that's why we made that decision to send that email out. But still sign the pledge, because if Advance deviate from what's in the pledge, then the pledge will withdraw support. Same with any political party. And if what Rupert's doing with Restore aligns with the pledge and Rupert signs the pledge, then we would also support Restore as well as the pledge. So it's not just a one party, it's not what the pledge, I've always said, is not about party politics. It's above party politics. So I would sign the pledge. Get involved in the street movement. Come on the 13th of September to London. It's going to be the biggest freedom event that's happened. As far as Ant Middleton's going to be speaking at it, Jordan Peterson. It's going to be just rock stars. Eva, that girl from Holland, who's a great speaker. It's going to be absolutely superb. So everybody needs to get on board with this and join the fight. And again, if you're in another political party, my advice is talk to Ben, see what you can get thrashed out between you. Let's get everybody together in one tent. And if you're a member of Reform, remember what Ben said at the beginning of the week. If you're a member of Reform, well, you're not actually a member, because all Reform has got is subscribers, apparently, right? Because of the way the party structure is. So Ben's quite happy for people that are in Reform to come on over and join Advance UK as well. So you can hedge your bets if you're a Reform member, as far as I know. And again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm only a lowly member of Advance. I don't have anything to do with the decision-making process, and I don't want to. But what I'm saying is, I think this is the show that's on the road, and everything else needs to fall in behind this. Hopefully, Rupert will fall in as well at some point, and the two guys will sit down and will go, okay, between us, we've got nearly 500,000 people following us. Let's just do this. Let's push Reform to one side. And all the people that are saying about splitting the vote, that's what they said about. That's what the Conservatives always said about Reform, or UKIP, or the Brexit Party. And Nigel caved to them. Don't forget this. Nigel caved into the Tories when Boris got elected. Nigel handed that landslide to Boris because it was looking like we could have a Corbyn government. So you can't play the splitting the vote card. You can't have your cake and eat it. If standing against the Tories was a good idea.
Anyway, there's no general election.
No. Exactly. It's 3 years out. There's plenty of time to build something.
If there was 12 months to go, if there was 12 months to go, then yeah, it's a discussion, but it's not a discussion at the moment.
I think it's a case of
lady. So, just this comment here. Sorry. I just want to do this quickly, Richard. Sorry, mate, because I want to address this lady. If you haven't got an email from the pledge, do me a favor, sign up again, and I'll when I see your email coming in, I'll actually check whether you're on the database. We're sending. Actually, hang on, because there's. Well, check your spam box. But the other thing is that the emails are going out 10,000 a day over 5 days. So there's still another day to go of the email blast. So you'll be getting another. You'll probably get an email tomorrow. No, actually, yeah, either tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the last day of this email blast. And then we've got another. The new ones that have come in the last 3 months, we're going to add them to a different database as well. So I'll check that. But if you could sign up again, then we know for sure that you're on the database. If that makes any sense. Sorry, Richard. Sorry to cut you off there, mate. I just had to address that.
What I was just thinking is, with vote splitting, yes, the election is quite a way away. So there is great value in, as I said, with Advance UK supporting them, because hopefully Ben can then hold Farage's feet to the fire. And it will then reveal the nature of reform if they are willing to yield and bend to the pressure that will be politically placed upon them by having an alternative in Advance UK. As things develop, reform will reveal itself, and so will Advance UK. That's the thing. All things will come to the forefront as time goes on, because as time progresses, policies will be decided a lot closer to the next election. Not membership. What's the word I'm looking for? Potential candidates will emerge as well. We'll see the caliber of those. Who's coming on side with who? Because the one thing I'm getting a little bit sick of with reform, to be honest with you, is it just seems to be anyone who was conservative previously can just go straight over to reform. And I'm like, well, what's the point in reform then? Like, really, what is the point? There's nothing there. The emperor has no clothes. So we'll just see. And that's the beauty of having, that's the luxury we do have, is time right now. If there was a snap election tomorrow, there'd be a very different conversation had, I think, all around. And it would be the case of, look, who's just going to keep Starmer out? I think that's what people would just say. And I would be supporting that. Who keeps Starmer out? Because if Starmer gets back in, we're all knackered. We're all done. End of.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to be pragmatic. I'm not a party man. You know, I believe in the country. I'm never going to be totally commit. I'll do as much as I can for parties I believe in, but I'm never going to be totally committed to any political party, because it's the country first. Because political parties, like, they're as fallible as human beings. They can make mistakes. They can go the wrong. Yeah. And if you get people coming in that are wrong uns, you can have all sorts of problems. So you've always got to be flexible and say, okay, well, that one didn't work. Let's see what this one's going to be like. And it's not like, to me, my commitment is to my country first.
I just want to see a party in power that gets us back to the 1970s and the 1980s, the way the UK used to be, the freedoms that we used to enjoy, the belief in ourselves. I mean, when I go back to the 1970s, when I was at high school, our teachers taught us to be proud of who we were, to be proud of being British. Some of my teachers fought in the Second World War. So you can imagine what sort of,
Same as. Yep.
That's the way that we were brought up. And now people of our generation have become a victim of our own upbringing, because it's not our fault that we're proud to be British. That's the way we were raised. Yeah. And now all of a sudden we're told that that's a crime. It's just crazy. We know what's right and wrong. You don't need a super duper whooper bloody politician to tell you what's right and wrong. We instinctively know what our country, our nation should be all about, because that's the way it's been for hundreds of years.
And I think I was honestly getting the stage. I mean, we've seen what happened in Ballymena, and the reality is, I was thinking, is that the only option that we got now? Is this it? Because until Ben launched Advance, I was pretty much in despair about politics, because I just thought, and again, I'm not disrespecting. I've been involved in UKIP. I'm not disrespecting UKIP, but they even admitted they weren't going to win the next general election. So the only chance that we had then was reform, and reform were just absolutely not what they were professing to be. And I thought, that's it, we're screwed. It is going to descend into a chaotic, low level, grinding, horrible civil war that will cause us all sorts of problems. And Ben is actually what he's doing with Advance is the last hope for this country politically. I genuinely believe that. And that's not me being dramatic. That's me looking at different scenarios, looking at what a lot of academics are saying. And there's basically 2 or 3 different scenarios. Unless we have a political and a spiritual solution, I think both of those things do come in tandem. I'll talk more about that next week. But the political solution has to be now Advance. And the scenarios are this: if you get another left-wing government, right, the British people, it will only take one trigger, and you will have what happened in August last year all over the country. And you know what? There's not going to be anybody calling for restraint. Nobody's going to nobody's going to say it's a good idea. Go and do it. But there's not going to be people coming out like we all did last time and saying, "Don't do it, lads. Just take it easy." You know, which actually had a massive effect. You know, when you think about what Tommy said last time, Tommy calmed the whole thing down, told everyone to wise up. We did it as well, Paul. We told people, don't get involved in violence. I said, go out and demonstrate, because you've got it's a massive right that we must always maintain. So always be out on the street, but don't get involved in violence. Tommy was exactly the same, saying, don't get involved in violence. You were the same, Paul. We all did it. A lot of the football lads were keeping their lads calm. A lot of other groups were keeping their people calm. I think if something really bad happens again, right, and we don't have a political solution and a political party in power that come alongside the people and say, we feel your pain, we know what's happened, we're going to do something about this, which is what the Labour Party should have done. Yeah, people will just stop listening, and they go, we're not going to engage. And that is the danger. That's what happened in Ballymena. But let me explain about Ballymena very quickly, just for anybody that doesn't know what happened in Ballymena. Those riots that were put out as race riots, they weren't race riots. A criminal element from one community, it was the Roma Gypsies in this case, moved into the town, caused absolute havoc, opened brothels, drug dealing, weapons dealing. They then started abusing little girls, and the town went to the police. They went to the politicians. They made a massive hullabaloo about it for 7 years. Nothing was done. And eventually, after alleged assault of 3 little girls, the town exploded. That's what happened there, and that could happen in any town or city right the way throughout the UK and Ireland. And that's why I think and this is for the politicians on the right as well. This is not a game. It's not about your rosette. It's not about your ego. It's not about you looking good on camera. It's about saving this country. And if you don't step up to the mark, whether you're in Reform, whether you're in UKIP, whether you're in Restore, whether you're in the SDP, whether you're in Britain First, if you don't put your egos down and step up to the mark and say, we've got to defer and go, okay, what's the best horse to back here? If you don't do that, you're just as responsible as the left and as the religious fanatics from the religion of peace. You're just as responsible. And I think that's got to be said. I think this is so serious. You know, we've given years of our lives to doing this, and I just think we can't play games with it. And one more thing, Paul, right? You were quite right on your video to call out the YouTubers. There was some absolutely despicable YouTube videos went out when Ben launched his party, from all sorts, some from people supporting Reform, some from people, I don't know who they were supporting, but some of the stuff that was said about the new party was absolutely reprehensible. Now, Ben's too much of a gentleman to even respond to it, but I'll respond to it, because people like that should hang their heads in shame, and they should realize that this is the last chance of saving our country. Advance is literally the last hope of saving it peacefully. And if you're going to play silly little games, play silly little boys games just because you got a big platform, well, I don't want to know anything about you. Simple as that. Simple. I'm not going to say any more on that, because that is aimed at certain people, and I don't really care, to be honest with you. Anyway, rant over.
I'm just going to turn the light on, because I'm running out of light here. I'm an hour in front of you guys. Hold on a minute.
Get the candles going there, Paul. Yeah, what you're saying is just absolutely spot on there, Richard. We've got time is very short. I was watching. I've been reading. I've become a bit obsessed by watching Dr. David Betts, lots of his interviews that he's been doing. What we've got is not just a fracturing of the how can I explain? The one demographic versus a certain demographic versus everyone else. We've also got like left-right splits. We've got right-right splits. We've got left-left splits. There are, for instance, a certain demographic that I will not name has been causing some trouble amongst some people of different persuasions, we'll say, as well. And that's been an interesting event that's taken place. So it's so, and this goes back also into this sort of a roundabout thing here. What you said about the left sort of getting together with people of a certain demographic to try and cause disruption. That's what happened in Iran. Like, I'm half Iranian, okay? Now, in Iran, what you had there is you had the left and you had religious fanaticism. And together they created also with from the CIA, they actually created the Democrats at the time, incidentally, they created the horror that became the Iranian Revolution. And to this day, like, I get called racist by people and Islamophobic, and I'm like, oh, okay, right. So that means I hate lots of my own flesh and blood. Incidentally, that does. Okay, I might be a Christian, but that means I have to develop a sort of different level of hate and a different aspect and context of hate towards people. Right. Well, that's not going to happen. So what is going on? That's what I want to know is, why are people trying to push lies, absolute lies about a situation, reframing it continuously? That's the problem I've got with everything.
Sorry,
Because
if you saw me grinning, then I'm sorry. It wasn't anything that you were saying, but Mrs. Thorp has just come out in her negligee, and she didn't realise I was lying. So, Richard, you nearly got a world exclusive there, mate.
Well, the ratings would have gone through the roof, Paul. I'd have been sitting on about 10,000 views, wouldn't I? Do you know what I mean? It would have been, you know, I was
sitting over there. She's
listen,
sitting
do you know
opposite
what?
me, grinning. I'm in trouble now.
You're in so much trouble. I was going to say something about OnlyFans and OnlyGrams, but I'm not even going to go there, Paul. You know what I mean?
She'd earn more money than I would, I'll tell you that.
Ditto. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, man.
Oh, dear. Yeah, no, I get, Richard, you're dead right. You're dead right. Did anyone, can I ask you guys, did anyone watch Liam's show last night with Charlie Veach?
Oh, awesome.
I missed that.
Awesome.
Did you see it?
Absolutely I mean, you know, he's another guy. We need to be talking to Charlie. If you, I mean, you know, I don't know if you watch any of this stuff, but if anyone knows Charlie, get Charlie to get Charlie, join Advance, mate. Just join and come on, start doing your stuff.
Can I just say that our friend Liam is a different league.
Oh,
Liam is smashing it out of the park, and rightly so. He asks all the right questions. He has all the right guests. He's got a magnificent way about him, and I thought he dealt with Charlie. You know, Charlie might not be everyone's cup of tea. I mean, the way look, as a YouTuber, he's like top notch.
yeah.
They don't get any better than Charlie, because his job is to get views, and he gets them, right?
Yeah.
The fact that I happen to agree with his politics is secondary. But what I felt was very interesting last night, lads, was when he talked about how he believes civil war could possibly start in the UK.
Yeah.
And if you sit and listen to it, it's frightening. Because I tell you why it's frightening, because I think he's right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and do you know the problem is, Paul, right? I mean,
sorry,
what did he say? What was the mechanism he said would cause the civil war? What was his perspective?
Basically, he said sorry, go on, Paul.
He had he said it would start in one of three ways. Richard, go on. You do it.
Basically, it could be a Southport type scenario again. So there's some sort of horrendous attack, and basically there's a response from the indigenous people, right? From British people, and in fact everybody that's not in the demographic that's done the attack, right? That was the first one. The second one is that the preferred demographic have some sort of mass demonstration in a city. I think it was Charlie said this, wasn't it? They take over a part of that city, start kidnapping people, you know, basically an October the 7th style situation, and that causes it. Can't remember what the third one was, but you know, it's pretty much what everyone's saying. Now, here's the thing: Ballymena, a month ago, right? And I'm doing a documentary on this at the minute. It's going to go on Tommy's channel. Ballymena, just a month ago, the police in Northern Ireland were calling for reinforcements from Scotland when that rioting was going on. Now, what you've got to understand is, right, that rioting was not widespread. It was in a very, very small area of Ballymena, little bit in Larne, little bit in Portadown. So that's 3 towns in Northern Ireland. When the Troubles were happening and when Drumcree was happening, every single town like Ballymena was on fire in the 1990s, right? They had thousands of police, thousands of soldiers on the streets, and even then they couldn't contain it. And I'll explain what I mean by this, and just so that people can understand the context of this sort of stuff. the chief constable of the RUC, and I know this because one of my mates was in the ops room when this happened, right? The chief constable of the RUC, Hugh Ansley, went to the CO of the parachute regiment that were deployed at Drumcree when the Drumcree stuff was happening, right? And he said to the head of the paras, he said, right, under no circumstances will this march go down the road. You must stop this march. Whatever you have to do to stop it, you have to do. And the head of the paras turned around to the chief constable and said, how many body bags do you have? He says, because I'll need at least 450. So the point I'm making is, if people take to the streets in massive numbers to create disorder, the civil power is in absolutely no position to be able to cope with that. So if that happened, even just in Northern Ireland, if Northern Ireland had caught fire after Ballymena, and it didn't, because again, wise heads cooled things down, right? And Ballymena was a local issue about a local situation. But wise heads cooled things down right the way throughout the province. If that had have gone mad for whatever reason, the police would have been coming in from England and Scotland. That means there's a gap in policing in England and Scotland, which means more crime will happen, which means you could have something that's a sectarian murder or is perceived to be a sectarian murder. Then Scotland explodes and Scotland catches fire. Then something happens in England. And before you know it, you can be in a situation where the country is completely unmanageable and ungovernable, literally within days. And the state can't do anything about that, because the thing about the United Kingdom and policing in the UK is by consent. And when the people withdraw their consent, the state has got a massive problem. They can't lock everybody up. So
Richard, this is really important. This is a really important subject.
Yeah.
And I want to say that last year, after the Southport incident, the closest we came to horrendous civil disturbance was the fault of the mainstream media, who resurrected the non-existent EDL, which naturally and understandably completely spooked the Muslim community, who then understandably picked up bits and pieces and went out on the streets to defend their communities. That was a threat that wasn't coming their way, because the EDL didn't exist then, and hasn't existed for years. The media nearly orchestrated mass civil disturbance between two communities, and that could easily happen again.
Let's be more specific. It wasn't just the media; it was the Merseyside police said the EDL was coming and the EDL was involved. So, and I think I could again. I'm not going to say something that's not right, but I think it was the chief constable of Merseyside police that said that. Also, and this is nailed on, Nick Lowell's vile snake that he is, accused people of an acid attack on a Muslim woman in Middlesbrough. That was a complete lie. He's never been called to account over it. He's never been arrested. Talk about inciting violence. And he knew what he was doing. He knew he was throwing a match in a bonfire.
This has to be said, right? This the bottom line is this. I said after that happened, and this goes for both communities, right? Some people watching this right now might not like this, but this is a fact. There's people from the Muslim community that are in jail right now that wouldn't be there if the mainstream media hadn't have shit stirred, and there's people from the other side that are also in jail right now that shouldn't be there and that wouldn't have been there if the mainstream media hadn't have stirred the pot. Now, I was living in Brighton at the time, and we was all told that there were massive far-right demonstrations planned for all over the country. The police were on high alert, everyone was on red alert. The Muslim community were coming out to defend themselves, and people, that's understandable. If they think people are coming to get them, they're going to defend themselves, right? Now, in Brighton, where there was supposed to be a mass far-right demonstration, 3 people showed up. 3.
There was a list. Where was that list? Who put that list out? Can you remember?
We believe
had to have come.
Yeah, we know who we believed it. Again, I'm not going to say it because these scumbags would sue you in a heartbeat. but we believe it's a certain lobbying organization that shall not be named, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay,
I think we all know.
That shall not be
That
named.
was all
we all know
absolute nonsense. Every single one of us knew that it was.
And here's the thing: people need to be careful what they wish for, Paul. Because I tell you something now. I lived in Northern Ireland at the height of the Troubles. I lived here as a civilian. I lived here as a soldier, right? And every single time my door knocked as a soldier, I was very, very wary, looking through the curtains. The security message that loyalists, activists, Republicans, soldiers, and policemen had to put in place just to make sure that someone wasn't going to come through your door with a sledgehammer and an AK-47. And this isn't hyperbole. This is the way it was. If I was driving through Belfast, I'd have the flipping. I'd never have the handbrake on at a set of lights. I'd have the car in gear, all the doors locked, right? And if anyone was getting in front of my car, I was driving over the top of them. That's just the way it was. Everybody lived like that in Northern Ireland. Now, if people want that for England, because I can tell you something now, it'll be a million times worse if it kicks off in England. And that is why this is so serious. So all these people that say, oh, we want civil war. Well, good luck on that one. You've probably never even fired a weapon in your life. See how you last. See how long you last in the trenches. See how long you last when someone comes through your door with an AK-47. It cannot happen. Scene? It can't happen.
Guys, do you remember that scene? I think, where was it now? It was caught live on Sky. When
Birmingham.
I think it was Birmingham, when all the local young Muslim lads had got together, they was driving around in cars looking for whoever they were looking for. All that was created by the media.
Yeah,
all of it.
Absolutely.
All of it was created by the media.
Yep.
And I just find it absolutely incredible that they can then put someone like Lucy Connolly in jail for all this time. The poor woman is still in jail right now. By the way, free Lucy Connolly.
Yep.
And the other political prisoners. You know, they can put Lucy Connolly in jail for that. Yet the journalists that hyped that up into something that was a complete fallacy, a complete and utter fallacy, just get away with it.
Exactly. And you know, it's the same as what they've done with Tommy. You know, they literally tried to frame him and blame him for those riots when they couldn't find the evidence on the riots. Oh, they've got him on a trumped-up terrorist charge, and we'll not even talk about the other thing. But in my opinion, what's happening to Tommy is the most unjust, evil, wicked lawfare that this country has probably ever seen, and I'm including things like the Birmingham 6, because the potential sentence that Tommy's facing and the pressure he must be on. He's just come out of prison, and he knows he's looking at a potentially a 10-year prison sentence next year if this goes wrong for him. Right now, I tell you what, you know, would anyone in the comments want to be under that sort of pressure? Would anyone that criticise him want to be under that sort of pressure? Wonder how Nick Lowes would feel if he was under that sort of pressure. And if we ever get political power, Nick, we're coming for you, fella. You'll go to jail. But, you know, seriously.
Do you know what, though, Richard? It's the difference.
Yeah.
With us, even someone like that will get a fair crack at a whip.
Well, do you know what? I mean, I don't want to see anyone go to jail for what they're saying unless they've actually broken the law. So that's, you know, that's hyperbole. But the bottom line is, I'm sure he has broken the law somewhere along the line. So if he has, we still need to investigate him. Do you know what I mean?
No, what I'm saying is, I think people like ourselves would give them more of an opportunity than they would give us.
Of course. Listen, they wouldn't give you. Listen. If they could bang me up tomorrow, they would do it without a shadow of a doubt. Paul, don't. You know, if we so much park on a double yellow line, we're going to be getting carted off. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's because we're challenging.
I don't know.
How do they select a jury for Tommy's trial? How do you even begin?
That worries me.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to a point there earlier about if we start getting banged up. To be honest, I'm not saying that we hold any great value in terms of the public's perception, but I think that, again, you want to talk about things that could kick something off. If all of a sudden the few people that you do trust start getting arrested and do start, you know, granted, like Lucy Connolly, you know, what is she doing in prison? That's another matter entirely. But if you've got people who have a public face, we'll say, and people who that are trusted. If they start arresting people like yourself, Paul, or myself to a lesser extent, or Jeff, for instance, all of a sudden, the anger, I think, would just, people would say, right, that's it, it's game over. I really do think that there is a scenario that would take place. If they arrested Maya Tusi, for instance, like, hang on a second, like, where do we get our information from now? We don't trust the mainstream media. All of a sudden, you have the potential of extremists, the real far right, emerging, because they're always going to be there waiting in the wings as well. And when I say the real far, I'm not,
Absolutely.
you know what I'm talking about.
You're right.
And that's the great danger. And they know that. What they're doing with Tommy, they're doing it just because they're desperate. They're running out of options at the end of the day, because how else are they going to keep a lid on this? I think this is a foregone conclusion that we are heading towards something. Now, the only thing that can stop that something, as you rightly said, is Advance UK right now, a political option. To be honest with you, I've been downplaying politics myself. I've becoming very disillusioned with it. And I do hope that Ben can... What Ben's got to do more than anything is unify everyone. And I hope he's the man to do it. Other than that, I can't imagine anybody else who is, really, unless there's somebody else waiting, other than Tommy, possibly. Okay. But I don't know if Tommy could unite everybody. The beauty of Ben Habib is that he is somebody you could imagine as Prime Minister, as we said earlier. I don't see anybody else who can unify us.
He's the finished article. He's the finished article.
Yeah, I think one of the issues is that the vast majority of the country are united, as in the way we want to live.
Yes.
We want to live in freedom. We want to live in peace. We want to live together happily.
Yep.
We want our kids to go to school safely, get a good education. When our parents are ill, we want them to get decent hospital treatment.
Yeah.
We all want to buy a home. And
today, though, just to say that we want to look after our own people, that there's actually a group of people out there who would say that that's far right. Why do you want to just look after your own? Oh, why can't you look after everybody else? Why can't we just allow anybody into this country and just look after them? Because we've got infinite resources. Why do you think so many people, millionaires, are leaving this country right now? And the psychology of the left is that if millionaires leave, we don't need them here anyway. Okay, so where does the tax take come from? That has to start filtering down. And all of a sudden, the middle classes start getting squeezed. And then as soon as they start getting squeezed, business owners, they're going to have to start increasing their prices on stuff. Then the working classes get hit. Everybody gets hit by left-wing ideology. It's an absolute cluster, you know what?
Yeah, it is, and I think the talk about this guy David Betts, who's talking about civil war, and other people talking about civil war. Again, it's all right talking about it from an academic point of view, but actually living through it and living in it. And like I say, Northern Ireland never got as bad as it could get. Northern Ireland was basically a very, very low level civil war. It was a civil war, but it was very low level, and it was quite localized. But if you end up in a sort of Kosovo, there was a farty pants of ex-military lad was in the comments there. He was saying he was in Kosovo, he's in Sierra Leone, and he saw, and even then, I mean, it was about 10 years after the conflict. It was horrendous. It was completely devastated. The infrastructure was devastated. There was still a lot of criminality going on. There was the health. Everything that the British had put in place during the empire was completely gone. It was just a devastated shell of a country. And I don't want that for the United Kingdom. And that's why I keep coming back that this is what's so important. The most important thing that we can do is, at the minute, to me, is get behind Ben. And I do think the spiritual side of it is massively, massively important as well, because what we need to do is be nice to each other. If we can't get on even in the right, in our movement in the right, then what hope is there for us getting on with our Muslim neighbours or our well, I mean, let's get it right. That's primarily where the conflict's going to come. It's going to be between radical Islam and everybody else. But we need to try and find a way of squaring this circle, getting rid of the radicals, getting rid of the extremists, and the people who are from that demographic that don't want to be involved in chaos, that don't want to take over the country. we welcome them into British culture and British society. But at the minute, that's not happening. People are living in silos in the UK, and it's been going on for years and years and years. And sooner or later, there's going to be a breaking point. And what our most important mission to do is to exactly what Tommy's trying to do, is uniting the kingdom, uniting the politics, asserting that this country is a Christian country, but that everybody who comes here with good intention and goodwill from whatever religious or spiritual background or none can live here in peace and protection of this state. That's all I want. I mean, what's wrong with that?
I'll tell you what, guys, right? The next event on the 13th of September, when you see the demographics of that event, the media are going to have one hell of a job describing them as a bunch of far-right racists.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
Aren't they just? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
You know,
Exactly right. And
but
that's
thankfully,
what,
I do think we're getting past. I do think that we are getting past that now. I think that a lot of people are opening their eyes. There's been a slight swing in the media. You know, even with Tommy, bless him, you know, people have been mellowing a little bit as far as he's concerned, because they've realised, you know, but for so many of them, they just haven't got the balls to go back and say, you know what, the bloke was right. I mean, what was it? Charlie Peters got an award for the grooming gang scandal he should have given that straight to Tommy.
Yeah.
Should have given that award straight to him.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the whole thing. It's embarrassing. I mean, you know, basically, if you look at the documentaries we made, and I was massively involved in making those documentaries. You look at what we did with those documentaries. There's nothing like them out there, and they've got because they've been suppressed by platforms. I'm not going to say which platforms, but they've been suppressed by different platforms. They've been cancelled. They've been deleted. Every time someone puts them up, they get deleted. Those films were raw, and they went into so much depth and so much detail. And I can tell you now, in Telford, we didn't even start to scratch the surface. Birmingham, off the chart. I mean, the corruption that we uncovered, the mafia that we uncovered, drug dealing, prostitution, trafficking, rape of children, just the whole thing was absolutely, it was like stepping into some sort of dystopian movie, especially when you spoke to some of those survivors, and what brave girls they were, but the things they'd been through, some of the stuff we didn't even put out. There was one girl, I mean, and a
guy. Can I ask you a question, both Richards? Years down the line, do you see public show trials of all these people that have let our kids down over the years? And
depends.
Do you ever see that happen?
Yeah, that depends. That actually depends if there's civil unrest. I mean, if there's civil unrest, then I don't know how those people would be dealt with by mob rule. Okay, so when it comes to actual trials, the only way that could happen is if there's a democratic outcome, in terms of if Advance wins, if it succeeds. That's the only chance there is of that, because nobody else is going to put those on, those shows.
I truly believe that is what is required. I truly believe that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that have facilitated this, hidden it, and are culpable, and they need to be hauled in front of the courts. They need to be hauled in front of the law and explained why they did what they've done, quite clearly in many cases.
I totally agree, and I mean, but the sad thing is, the scale of it is so big. Well, the Greater Manchester Police put out last week, I don't know if you saw this, 1,000 men in Greater Manchester right now are being investigated by the police over grooming. 1,000, and we all know what demographic they're coming from. It's not, they're not West Indian, they're not Hindus, they're not Christians from Nigeria, they're not Buddhists. We all know exactly who's been investigated, right? 1,000 live investigations going on in Greater Manchester now. Now, that's just one city. You've got Newcastle, you've got Birmingham, you've got London. Apparently, London's off the chart. London is off the chart with this. And Sadiq Khan, when he was asked by the Conservative mayoral candidates about what had happened with the grooming, just brushed it under the carpet. kicked it to the curb and basically accused her of racism. You know,
yeah, he was trying to bait her into it, wasn't he? He was definitely trying to bait her. Go on, say the word he was trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'll say it. Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs. That's what they are. That's just the facts of the situation. You know, and at the end of the day, if people don't like it, well, it is what it is.
No, but
right?
I'll caveat that with saying that as far as I'm concerned, I don't really care what colour or race or religion a grooming gang is. I want them all inside. All of
Well,
them.
yeah, cool. But the reality is 99% of them are from that demographic. So
Yeah,
that's
of course.
so
Yeah.
you know. So let's just So they're the facts. But the truth is I don't think they'll see justice because there's too many of them. There's too many vested. There's too many people in the Labour Party. Too many people in the Conservative Party. What we've got to understand is the whole body politic has been completely subverted by radical leftists and by Islamists. That's a fact. That's what's gone on. The civil service is riddled. Dominic Cummings said this the other day. He said the civil service infested with them. You know, even in the police, they're revising the police. So how can you beat such a corrupt system where if the police want to go into Rochdale and arrest Abdul, Mohammed, and Asif, they've got to go and talk to community leaders first. And the next thing you know, Abdul, Mohammed, and Asif are off on the plane to Pakistan. That's what we're up against. That's what we're up against, and it's been like that for years. One of the girls told me when we're doing the pre-interviews before Tommy interviewed them. One of the girls told me that she was going to go to the police. Right? She decided to go to the police. Somehow, the gang that were attacking her, that had been, will not use the word, assaulting her, right? SA, that had been doing that, heard that she was going to the police. Right? She contacted the police. They heard she was going to the police. She was kidnapped, taken to a business in Telford. Now, this is what she told me. There's no evidence for it, of course, but this is what she told me. Taken to a business in Telford, taken into the back of that business. It was, I think, a coffee shop or a kebab shop, one of the two. Taken it in the back of the business. A chest freezer was opened. Inside the chest freezer was a body of a little girl. Right? She told me that the next thing that came out of that man's mouth, and this was one of the guys that we had a camera pointed at his face. I'm not going to say his name because obviously we can't substantiate this, right? But we had a camera pointing at this man's face, right? That man said to that girl, "If you go to the police, you'll be joining her." And there were 3 murders. There were 4 murders in Telford carried out by people that were involved in the grooming gangs. You know, and you can multiply that right the way up and down the country. And you know, I honestly, where were the men of England? You know, that song I've put together, where were the men of England when all this was going on? What happens in Ballymena? It's done in a week. Where were they? They did nothing. They did nothing. And it's a disgrace.
I know what I want to say, but I'm not going to say it.
No, I know. But I'm talking about the police. I'm talking about the civil servants, not the civil, the social workers. I'm talking about the school teachers. School teachers knew this was going on. The kids were getting picked up from school. People working in the care homes knew it was going on. They were getting picked up from the care homes. The police knew it was going on. They just waved them through. They did nothing. The media knew it was going on. The only person that spoke about it was Andrew Norfolk and a few other journalists. But it's hardly any mention of it for 20, 30 years. It's been going on since the 70s.
So I go back to my original question. Will these people one day all end up in the dock where they belong?
No. We're more likely to end up in the dock for talking about it. You know, and that's how insidious.
The only, as I said, the only way that such a thing could happen is if there's a political outcome in terms of this country changing and there being accountability. But then, as you rightly said, Richard, there is the scale of this whole thing. How 1,000 people have been investigated in Manchester alone. We don't even know what's going on in London.
That's for cases that are live now, Richard.
Yeah, live cases, as you said. How many prison places have we got in the country?
Not historical. This is live.
Yeah. How many prison spaces have we got in the country?
Well, it'll always be a love for the Lucy Connollys.
Yeah. Well, that's
exactly.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, this is why what we're facing is so deep and so deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I mean, people talk about civil war. The other thing is, what people have got to realize is that the demographic that would be involved in that civil war is extremely well organized, extremely well armed. They've got terrorist connections, they've got criminal connections. They basically they've been dealing the heroin in the United Kingdom for years. They're involved in people trafficking, money laundering, every other crime under the sun. They're very well organized, and they're not stupid. They're not like, you know, some gangsters go around shooting each other and chopping each other up. They don't do that. They're too clever for that. They keep everything under the radar. You never hear about it. You never hear what's going on because they're very, very well organized. So good luck. You know, if people that are wanting a civil war, good luck with that, because, you know, I can tell you something for now. I don't see too much organization on the
nobody wants that.
No, on the indigenous side, you know, of course not. This is the whole point, and this is why we need this political. We need a political solution, and we need a spiritual solution. Because I'm looking down the road and I'm seeing absolute horror unfolding in the United Kingdom unless Advance UK win the next general election. It's as simple as that. And I know that sounds very dramatic.
I spoke to a mutual friend of ours, all of us, I won't say who, the other day, and I was informed that there's a lot of weapons that have been brought into this country, unfortunately, and it is quite easy to purchase these with ammo for very, very small amounts of money. I think it was a weapon with 100 rounds for 100 quid, something like that, you know. And I'm like, what? And as you said, I mean, how many people do you think have actually got access to these from a certain demographic? How many people, the interconnection going on there, the networks through crime, through, I don't want to. There's so many. Sorry, chaps. I'm trying to miss words out here. What I'm saying, because I don't want to say.
Of course, sure. Yeah.
All I'll say is it's a very dangerous situation. So, as you rightly said, gentlemen, if there are people out there who want a civil war, you're stupid. You really are. You don't know what that means. You might think that's going to be a load of lads getting together and just going out and having a big old doodah, having a bit of a fight, and it'll all be over. I'm sorry, it would be bloody ugly. And none of us want it. And so, yes, gentlemen, what we have to do is work towards preventing that. And the only way to do that, really, it appears, is, well, there are two ways. For me, the answer is, for me, first, I will say it's the spiritual aspect. That's my personal thing. I think it's a spiritual aspect first. And then secondly, we need to be looking at vehicles that withhold the values, the Christian values. And that only appears to be via the pledge, which is the pledge has actually been highly successful. I mean, Advance UK is proof of it, living proof that the political party has adopted the principles of the pledge. Okay, so that's an important thing to remember. And
it's not. I'm not done with the pledge.
You should look at it.
The pledge will continue on as long as we need to have it, because again, it's about giving that moral compass and that ideology to the I think, but there's a power cut. Paul, you need to keep putting money in the meter, mate.
Guys, my phone, my battery is about to die, so I'm an hour in front of you as well. So I'm gonna love you all and leave you.
Okay. Yep. Okay, Paul. Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure. Love to everyone. Have a great.
Listen, it was a great live. We've stayed steady at about 800 people there for the last hour. You know, which is all right. I mean, you know, so you know, it's so we just got to keep building. We got to keep working at this. And guys, go on to Paul's channel and subscribe to Paul's channel. Give him a like. His content is absolutely superb. He always talks sense. And sometimes me and Paul don't agree on things, but do you know what? We're never going to fall out over what we don't agree on. Right? We just don't fall out. We just don't do it. You know, and what I'm going to say to everybody else in the movement: stop with the bitching, stop with the backbiting, and start supporting each other and start bigging each other up instead of tearing people down. And 100%. I do want to give a big shout out for Liam, because Liam, I didn't say it earlier, Paul, but I think before you go, I think Liam Tufts, I'm going to say this, right, and it'll sound sycophantic, but it's true. I think Liam Tufts is as good as Joe Rogan.
Oh,
I agree.
100%.
In fact, actually, I think he's better.
He's better.
I think he's better, because Joe's always stoned. Joe's always on the weed, you know what I mean? At least he's always on the weed and drinking bud, whereas at least Liam's sober when he's doing his podcast, and he's got an air of professionalism about him, and so yeah, big up Liam. I think he's doing a great job, and Charlie Veach as well. Absolutely fantastic. There's some great people on there, and again, this is the opportunity that we've got to talk to hundreds of people every time we come on a stream, and and there's a responsibility comes with that. So we've got to make sure that we're trying to de-escalate things. We're trying to say to people, look, I've looked down the barrel of that gun, and you don't want to go there. That's all I'm saying. And we've politically and spiritually, I believe we can still do this. And again,
what do they say? The pen is mightier than the sword. So make sure you're registered to vote.
Yeah,
and make sure you join. Make sure you join Ben's new party. Bloody hell!
Advance UK.
I've got my teeth. My teeth are. I'm only joking. My teeth are kind of real. Advance UK. Yeah. Make sure you join. Right, I'm off, guys. Love to you all.
Okay, Paul. Take it easy, mate. Take it easy.
Bye.
See you later. Oh, what a gent! What an absolute.
Absolutely.
Great. That was a great stream, Rich. A really, really good stream. There was people in that. Could you do me a favor, Richard, as we close? Could you close us in prayer at the end of the stream? Would that be okay? We'll go a little bit more. We'll go through some of these comments, but I think we're pretty much. I'm exhausted, mate.
Yeah, it's been a long day, mate. These are long. This is my third today. This is. I'm like
third live today, man. That's some going. Yeah. You know what? It's just so difficult to get the time to do everything. I was going to do a video about certain subject. I'm not going to go what it was, and I just didn't get the chance to do it. It was just so much going on. But no, as far as I know, I'm not. I don't think anyone is removing your comments. I don't think they are. But anyway, I was thinking earlier. What's this one? I was thinking earlier how the government keeps playing their hands, but that's because of the dark spiritual stuff. That's right. I mean, this is the thing, Richard. This is a spiritual battle,
Yes.
And the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. And man, do I know that battle? Do you know what? Before I got in this movement, my life was hunky dory. I had plenty of money. Everything was good. And believe you me, I feel like I've been hit by a steam train this year. You know what I mean? So it's like, we need anybody in this chat that's spiritual. When Richard prays, get behind him in prayer. Because I really believe that we need to be praying. And I think, I was watching a thing, Rich, there about the Moravians, and they prayed for 100 years, 24-hour a day prayer for 100 years in the 1700s. And there's all the spiritual movements of the late 1700s were born out of that prayer movement. The Methodists, what happened in America, they sent missionaries all over the place. So I believe prayer works, and I believe God's in control. I believe God's on the throne. If I didn't believe that, I think I'd go mad or do something crazy. Because what else, if you don't have God, what else do you have to as a backstop when everything in your life goes wrong? Where do you go if you don't have God? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't imagine a world without God. I know that
there wouldn't be.
Some of the things I've been through in the past.
Yeah,
we'll just say quite a few years. If I hadn't had God, I wouldn't be here now. I don't think.
Ditto. Absolutely, 100%. I'm on the same page. And there's plenty of curveballs still get thrown at us, but my goodness, if it wasn't for God, and listen, I'm the most flawed, messed up individual you probably ever come across in your life. But my point is, when people say to me, "Oh, you're meant to be a Christian, and you're not very good at it," I say, "Well, imagine what I'd be like if I wasn't a Christian."
Yes, I had a friend of mine. He's with the Lord now, and he used to say, "You wouldn't want to know me outside of Christ. You wouldn't want to know me." And I'm an incredibly myself. I'm a deeply flawed individual, like really badly so. When Paul said he was the chief of sinners,
if we're honest.
Yeah. But But if it wasn't for Christ, I hate to imagine what kind of a creature I would be. I really do. I think I'm frightened of that thought. I don't want to
when you
think about
take your eyes
it.
off Christ for a minute, you see what sort of creature you'd be. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
as simple as that. And that's, you know, that's why I don't need Christianity to make me strong. I need Christianity to survive. You know, it's as simple as that.
Yes.
You know, and it's, you know, and it's not, people say it's a crutch. I say, yeah, it is. It's a flipping good crutch. Do you know what I mean? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
It's the
but
truth.
yeah, okay. Well, let's lead us in prayer there, Rich. And people are asking about the Men of England song. I'm not going to play that tonight, but I am going to try and get that into my intro. So next time I do a live, the Men of England will play a little snippet from it, and I'm going to try and make it available on one of our websites with MP3s, but with an MP3. But I've got so much other stuff going on at the minute. It's difficult to find the time to do everything. But and again, everybody that's watched tonight, 800 people here watching now, fantastic interaction with our viewers. Thanks very much for all the comments. Really, really appreciate them. And again, we trust God, and we'll get this thing done politically, and let's save a lot of lives. If you want to close in prayer there, Rich.
Okay. So I'd like to say, just to everybody watching this as well right now, if you're Christian or not, just come alongside us, because there's a lot of love coming your way from myself and from Richard and from everyone else. Okay. So Heavenly Father, I ask now that you put your hand over your people, over the people of this country, of the United Kingdom, and people all over the world. And we ask that you comfort those who are in distress right now. There'll be people who will be watching this who will be in great pain, emotionally or physically. They'll feel no hope whatsoever in their lives. But Father, I want you to reassure them and give them the presence of your Spirit. Holy Spirit, we ask that you go alongside the people of this country and guide them. Guide people towards you, Father. Use the Spirit, Father, and Holy Spirit. Come together with all of us as one people, just one family. That's all we want, is reconciliation with God. To be reconciled as one people, to be children of God in a family. And so this country doesn't just become a country, it becomes a family. That we are all one. And we ask that those people who would wish us ill, that they also come to know you, Father. That they come to know the sacrifice of your Son, and they accept it. They accept the sacrifice of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. And we ask for peace in this land. And we ask that there's no civil unrest. And as I said, Father, those people who wish us ill, we send them love, Father. And we ask that this love transforms them, that they may change their hearts and their minds. And we just ask for peace in this land. In the name of your Son, Father, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Oh, thanks, Rich. Really, really appreciate that. Well, listen, guys, thanks everyone for watching. We're gonna bug out here now, and don't know when we're going to be on again, but it'll be soon for sure, because there's too much to talk about. There's too much to do. So we're going to keep pushing this. Remember, trust in God, trust in Christ, register to vote, and join Advance UK. And we'll see you all next time. God bless you all.